Hey, my name is Quoc Duong. I'm the founder of Human Readable, and today we'll be talking about our platform, how to use it, some of the tools we developed to help make that process a little easier, and we'll talk about our roadmap and the current state of AI. We'll try to get through it pretty quickly. I'll try not to rant too much. So here we got our splash page. You can use this button to set up a meeting with me if you want. I won't try to sell you anything. You can use it for customer support or just another way to reach me. Here we got some information about our history and why we're building this app, some marketing stuff, a little bit of our research, which we're happy to talk more about if you're interested. Our Discord page, another way to reach out to us, and our email. And so after you log in, you'll see our dashboard. You'll see also I'm on localhost, and that's because this video will also go right here as a reference. If you go into your accounts, this is where you'll create API keys, and here you can add more logs. I already added 50 logs, but I'm going to take that part out because I use my address like a dummy. But here's another demo of that, and here I won't be using 1Password. I'll be using 123 fake street. If you join the Discord, you might have some coupon codes that we can provide for this as well. This is currently in test mode. I like this confirmation page, but if you have the confirmation page, you can't redirect for some reason. So you're just gonna have to go back. But we also need some analysis requests. And I know you're wondering, oh man, 10 for $15, that doesn't seem like a lot. Well, you'll see why it's so expensive later in the demo, but these analysis can get quite expensive. So we've purchased the logs, get our API key, call this test, and I already have an automation built, so I'm going to use that. Let me pull it up real quick. So here's our test automation. If you're using the actual platform, you won't have to set the base URL. You'll just have to add the API key and your project ID. And this will only display once, so be sure to copy that. And so, sometimes this information is slow to load. You can just refresh it if it's having issues. But here, we're going to use this test project that I made. We'll ask ChatGPT. Well, it used to be a Pokemon deck builder, but now it's a who is answer, question answer. And so we'll just call this who is create. This inactive button doesn't work yet, but it's a feature that we'd like to have down the road. Then I take this project ID and add it to my logger. And we will take our template. And I'll explain a little bit more about this as we go through, but template name, we'll call it who is of computer science. Right. No quotes here, just the string with the F string, just like that. And so now that we have this, let's talk about our automation. We have a Python library that you can import called HR AI Logger, right? Human Readable AI Logger, and it also has the utils in there. It's in the Human Readable AI Python library, so you can pip install this, right? I don't like these imports. It was the way we made the project, and so we'll probably fix this later, but we just wanted to get something out the door. And so basically you set up your base URL, API key, your project ID, and you can add this decorator, right? after you've instantiated the logger, you can do the logger.readable, and that will log to our platform. And you can use any function call in here as long as you're returning the chat completion object. So you can't just return the answer to your response. You have to return the whole OpenAI chat completion object, which we decided, hey, if we're going to ask you to do that, we might as well have a util and a function call that does that for you. We're also making helper functions to help you just get the answer after that also. But all this needs is the OpenAI client, which is right here, the model you want to use, a tool, and the messages. Now the tools, normally it's a list of tools, but we just send the tool object, right? And we also have this create tool, which honestly is probably the same amount of work to type all of this, but we'll also improve this down the line. I think there's a lot of ways we can improve this properties, the way we handle that. And then your message, right, which is just a list of chat objects, right? Like any other OpenAI chat completion, you have sort of this, system list user. You can have as many messages in this list as you want, right? But right here, what we're doing is we have this f string, and because it's an automation, we're feeding in data, which is this list of names, right? And then we're having this message be sent, right? And here, this is the system, so I'm going to put provide as much information about the requested person as possible. Yeah. All right. And we'll save that, right? And just have it run. And so in the back end, we're capturing this log, the information, and we're displaying it here. And so we got the project, we got your template, which is who is of computer science, and we have these requests. And we'll probably improve this interface a little bit, but here we're asking about John Doe. Who's John Doe? And here he says it's typically a placeholder name. That's a pretty good answer, right? Claude Shannon, he knows who Claude Shannon is. And then I just made up this name. Abra Sam Justin the Fourth. And he says he doesn't know. But let's do a prompt analysis here. And so when we perform this prompt analysis, you go to our dashboard now, and you see that we're sampling this request multiple times. And you can see here these low entropy responses, very, consistent. Abraham Sam Justin the Fourth, right? 19.55. So, anything below a 19.577 you might not want. Is not a known figure, is not a recognized individual, is not a recognized figure, is not a recognized figure, there's no information available. All right, kind of get the picture here. Let's see. But the reason these are so expensive is because we're actually sampling 50 times. And so you can see here that it will either just repeat the name. Looks like it does that about half the time. And, here it just says information on. I'm not aware. There's no information. Has no known contributions. right? So really here, I'd say up to here or up to here, right? The entropy is fairly similar, and you can easily just filter out any responses with an entropy lower than, you know, a 577 or 573, right? Everything else is a fairly decent answer. These reasons might be a little more interesting. But, let's sample another log, right? Because the thing is that something like a Claude Shannon analysis is actually going to be way, way, way more consistent, right? And so here you have the Claude Shannon, right? And, GPT, no matter how many times you ask, it's going to know pretty much, it's going to have a pretty good response for this. It looks like once it didn't send an answer. But, I think probably all of these are going to be reasonable, right? And so let's just check once more, because it takes some time for the samples to come in. Right, so there was one outlier where there was no response, which is interesting. We'll have to take a look into that one. But we got pretty good results, right? And consistently, I'd say for this prompt, anything above 5.7 is going to be a good response, right? Even taking into a fake name into account, right? Because really, this is what this tool is for, is that, as humans, we have the way that we perceive things may not always be consistent, right? Because we might test out our automations here and there, and there's we'll see that we'll get these responses up here, but really, like, these happen far more frequently than you would really like, right? And so maybe there's a way, to filter the data better, or maybe you use an LLM to filter the response first, to check the input before you put it into the next response, right? And so I think graphs like these really help to do a sanity check when you're building these types of automations. And really, just by looking at these types of responses, you can see that, OpenAI really is fairly inconsistent when it comes to outlier type of requests, right? And these can really break your app. And it's hard to tell really what is going to do that, right? And so it's good to have a platform where you can see your responses, get a numerical value, so you can be a little bit more scientific about the way you approach your automations. And so we'll talk about our product development roadmap. So really, entropy is great, but I think what we want in general is to take this line graph and turn it into a single value to indicate uncertainty or a range of uncertainty for a particular request, right? And so, here in these logs for our Abra Sam Justin the fourth question, this would have a single value of uncertainty index. I think that will help us with alerting. So when you have a response that really isn't uh, good, right, we can know fairly confidently that there's uncertainty in this type of response, right? And we can let you know about that. And this helps us to do things more rapidly, more automated. And so a no code solution seems like a natural transition from there, where we can do bulk requests. You can put in a large input, and we could make the request and chain prompts, and then also alert on which inputs caused higher uncertainty than others, right? And so essentially you'll have a bill of materials for your data that you've created through this no code automation. We'd also like to add prompt improvement suggestions. We have a little bit of research suggesting that there's a ideal way to, or there's a programmatic way that you could create better prompts that are more consistent, that are more akin to the Claude Shannon type of requests as opposed to the Abra, Justin, whatever the fourth type of request, right? And so prompt improvement suggestions, that's on our roadmap. And then if we're going to suggest better prompts, I think it's only natural to, if we're going to do a code analysis or request analysis on your responses, I think it's only natural to automatically pick the best results if it's a bulk automation, right? So we can alert and say that, hey, this was a high uncertainty request. And so because of that, we decided to do a sample, and from that sample, we took the average response as far as entropy goes. And then, beyond that, I think everything's up in the air. And I think this space is evolving very quickly, but, we want to build automations for today, right? I don't want to wait for AGI. By the time AGI comes out, we're not going to have a job, right? We won't be developing because, obviously they'll deploy the army of AGI to do all the work. You would lose your job instantly as soon as the AGI robots came, right? And so, we have OpenAI now. We have Gemini, we have Claude, and they're not fantastic. And I'm not here to argue with people about how good AI is or isn't, right? But we do know that it's the most popular app in the world, and people are using it on a daily basis, and people find value in it. But we also, on the other hand, see that businesses haven't really found incredible value in it, right? Not to the point of where they're firing people because all the jobs have been taken by AI. Really, it still takes a person sitting at a chat prompt, talking back and forth, getting the best response. But if that's possible, I think that automation is also possible. The thing is that you have to have very clean inputs, right? You have to know what you're doing. You almost have to be an expert to be able to use the chat interface, right? You have to know what you're doing. You have to, and that's sort of the difference. But if you know what you're doing, if you have the data, if you can have clean inputs, then, there's nothing stopping people from making a bunch of money off of that type of automation, right? And so I think there's a lot that can be done with the products that we have today. It's just that, trying to figure out the best way to develop that, the best prompts to use, trying to figure out, trying to clean the data. Those are all issues that we're trying to solve so that we can build the apps that we've always wanted to build. And I'll sort of leave this with an app that I wanted to build a while ago, was based off of the data from the Hospital Price Transparency Act. And if you're not American, you might not know about this, but Joe Biden in like 20 whatever, he had this act where he said that hospitals have to publish all of the data for their pricing, and it had to be public. And so hospitals do that, but they're in these giant spreadsheets that are like gigs and gigs big, and the data is just so unreadable and so unhelpful that it basically hasn't changed anything in the United States. But that's something that I would hope that AI would be able to help people with, is to fix that data, make the data more clean, make it usable for an app, so that people can actually compare prices between hospitals in their city, so they can make better decisions about where to go when they're sick, and where to go when they're in pain, where to go for physical therapy. And so that's the kind of thing that I feel like AI should be able to do pretty decently, right? The sort of very simple tasks that you can break down into very small parts. I think this is a bet on the fact that a very complicated task is simply just a series of smaller tasks, which, that's a philosophical question. Like, no one's really gonna know the answer to that, right? Because really, what you're getting into there is you're asking about the soul of a thing that you're doing, right? Can machines make art, right, if they have no soul? I mean, but generally speaking, I want to see this out. I want to know, if the task is simple enough, if you chain enough simple tasks together, can you produce something greater than its parts, right? I think, with computer programming, that certainly seems to be the case, right? And I think LLM should help to make that dream come true. And so that's really what this automation platform is for, right? And so anyways, I think I've ranted enough. This video is probably way too long by now, but reach out. I want to hear from you, and I want to hear about your automations. I want to hear about your problems, and I want to see if we can help each other to build cool automations. Thank you, and I hope to see you guys soon.